All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of B Electronics. And in this video, we'll be talking about the Keynesian Neoclassical and the Intermediate Zone on the short range average supply curve. Okay, so we've talked about the Neoclassical and Keynesian theories. Okay, we know that your Neoclassical theory has to do with supply that creates demand. Okay, so Neoclassical theory, this is where supply creates demand. So basically, what it says is that as long as you supply at your maximum capacity, let's say this is your full employment or potential GDP, there will be demand in the economy somewhere. Okay, so as long as you are able to supply, there will be demand. Okay, so supply creates demand. And the opposite of the neoclassical theory is the Keynesian theory. And the Keynesian theory basically says that for you to supply, there should be demand in the market. Okay, so demand creates supply rather than okay, so this is your okay Keynesian theory. All right, and Keynesian theory, okay, is the inverse of neoclassical theory. This is where demand creates supply. Demand creates supply. And if we were to graph this using the short range aggregate supply curve or short range average supply curve, so let's say this is your short range average supply curve. And over here, you have your long range average supply curve, also your potential GDP or full employment. Okay, what's going to end up happening is you will have three zones. Okay, zone number one, right where the curve is flat. Zone number two, this is your intermediate zone. And zone number three, this is your neoclassical zone. So this is neo, this is Keynesian zone on the flat curve, and this is your intermediate zone. All right, so what happens is as the short range supply curve or short range average supply curve slopes upward and moves towards the neoclassical zone, it reaches its full potential or employment. Okay, at this point, this is your equilibrium point. Okay, your aggregate supply, okay, your supply meets, excuse me, your supply meets your full potential, which is this one over here. Okay, and aggregate demand will be where the supply meets full potential. All right, so basically saying that supply creates demand. As long as you're able to supply at full potential, at full employment, okay, there will be demand in the economy somewhere. All right, and this demand curve may shift a little to the right or a little to the left. Okay, it won't impact okay the supply itself, which means it won't impact the GDP. All right, so GDP stays the same for your neoclassical zone. All right, but price levels may go up. for output, so number of units produced. All right, and the price level keeps on changing either to the right, to the left. Okay, it's not gonna impact your output of production. However, for the Keynesian zone, okay, what's gonna end up happening is, okay, right over here you have your equilibrium point. This is where your demand meets supply. And because this is a flat curve for your short range average supply curve, this is a flat curve, which basically means the price levels will stay the same to some extent. Okay, if the demand shifts to the right or left because of whatever reason in the economy. Okay, whatever factor in the economy. So price level, okay, stay the same, but the output of production will change. Okay, but output of production will change. All right, so basically you're saying is no matter, okay, the price levels, the output of production will change. All right, now apart from that, you also have the intermediate zone right over here. Okay, now for the intermediate zone, okay, your aggregate demand curve may shift to the left or right. Now, if it does shift to the left, okay, the price levels will go down, and so will the output of production, which means your real GDP goes down. Okay, so let's say shift somewhere over here. Okay, your price level and your GDP will go down. Okay, and if it does shift to the right, okay, what's going to end up happening is, okay, the price levels will go up, and because more money is chasing this price level over here, okay, there's more money pumped into the economy by the Federal Reserve Bank or the central bank. Okay, what we're basically saying is you have inflation. Okay, so this leads to inflation. Okay, this is inflation and low unemployment. So your unemployment is low at this point. Okay, because obviously the demand curve is moving towards the full potential along the short range average supply curve, as a result of which the suppliers are able to produce more up to the maximum capacity, up to their maximum capacity. Okay, however, okay, what we're saying over here is, okay, the inflation sets in within the economy. Okay, because obviously there is more money being pumped into the economy to meet the demand, as a result of which inflation sets in. All right, so this is basically how the Keynesian and neoclassical zones work on the short range average supply curve. On behalf of V Electronics, this is Ubaid. Have yourself a great day.